I cannot start this interview without saying that I'm very honored that you've dressed up for my sake and for our sake here. It's very nice, and it's very rare that someone dresses up for an interview.
まず最初に本当に僕らのインタビューのためにここまでコスプレしてここまで。すごいありがたいです。
当たり前じゃないか。
Of course, definitely. Of course, definitely.
Can you tell us a little bit about the significance of dressing up? Because you're not just dressing up because this is the way you do every day. It's because of the game, obviously. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's all about?
This isn't what I wear every day. This is I'm dressed up as one of the characters from Chapter 4, Kishibe Rohan, who's actually a manga writer. So he's a creator in the franchise himself. And me too, being a game creator, feel this sort of connection between Kishibe Rohan and myself. So I really enjoy this character. He's just one of my favorites, and this is why I'm dressed up as Rohan for this interview.
You also feel a little bit dressed up. Can you tell us about yours?
So Kira Yoshikage is the character I'm dressed up, or the tie that I'm wearing is from him. He's one of the boss characters in the 4th chapter. He's sort of a killer, assassin, I guess, in the 4th chapter, and the story is about the heroes going up against them and trying to defeat Kira Yoshikage. So that's sort of why I'm sort of dressed up as that character as well. And you should probably tell the fans out there why you're wearing the tie of a killer, because everybody's probably gonna think you're wearing the tie because you want to be a killer, you like the killer character. So you try and make that a little bit clearer. So the reason why I'm wearing the tie from Kira Yoshikage, which is a killer in the 4th chapter, is all of the characters, whether they're evil, whether they're good, whether they're villains, they all have this sort of humanesque, sort of really characteristic to each of the characters. They have really strong personalities, and even if they're bad, they're really very attractive in that sense. So I don't necessarily want to be a killer myself, but at the same time, I feel sort of connections between sort of the humanity within the whole franchise.
We're already getting way into the fiction of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But for those of us who are unfamiliar, the only familiarization I have with it is the old game that came out from Capcom. But that was not perhaps as much deep on the story side of things. How would you describe JoJo to someone who doesn't know anything about it?
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle includes all chapters from Chapter 1 all the way to Chapter 8, which is 26 years worth of story in the franchise. So it was very difficult to really express the complete story within the game itself. So what we have done is we've picked up characters from each of the chapters, really implemented their character, really emphasized their personalities in the game itself. But the story itself is sort of a summary of each of the chapters. So the game will help you to understand sort of the basic summary of the franchise itself. But what we're hoping is for players to pick up the game, play and have interest in each of the characters or in a particular character. And once that interest has sort of developed, we want players to, maybe pick up the manga or look at the anime and really dive deeper into the JoJo world. So hopefully this is a good entryway for players to understand what the character is about and what the whole JoJo world actually involves. But the general story of what the JoJo franchise involves in is Chapter 1 starts out with Jonathan Joestar and his arch rival Dio Brando. It's sort of, the whole story encompasses sort of the passing of generations. So each chapter is a different generation of this whole Joestar family. That's what the story is about. You have this arch rival and you have these connections throughout each of the chapters, and it's sort of the descending of the situations. You see different characters sort of appearing in each of the chapters, sort of all collaborating to sort of defeat the rivals throughout the chapters.
I think it was a really nice thing that sort of each chapter sort of seems to bring a different flavor to the gameplay, to the battles, and you can mix and match these in all kinds of crazy combinations. Is that the sort of the vision, the concept that you wanted to do with the game?
もちろんです。ただやっぱ
So yeah, definitely that was one of the goals, that was one of the objectives when developing this game. But at the same time, it was one of the biggest challenges that we had as well. As you said, each of the different chapters have such unique characters, and they don't really connect directly with each other. So it was a really big challenge to really take the 32 characters that were in the actual package and the additional 9 downloadable characters as well, and really bring them into one single game, and really have each of their characteristics, each of their abilities to sort of be able to fight against each other. So that the accuracy of their characters, putting everything into one game and having them be able to fight against each other was one of the biggest challenges. Was one of the funnest things that we had to do. But again, it was a lot of work, but we do feel we have been able to initiate or integrate what we wanted to achieve.
Because it really feels like many games in one, in that sense that it's sort of, you can have some systems that work like certain games and other systems that work like other games. It's like a mix and match thing.
よかった。それが伝わっててよかったです。
So I'm really pleased that you sort of felt that way, because that was one of our goals. But at the same time, what we do want to sort of emphasize is, although this is a fighting game, it's not just a power game. It's because there's a lot of stage gimmicks. There's a lot of strategy and a lot of mental strategy that takes part when you do combat against other characters in the game itself. So not just this is something new for the fighting genre, I think, is not just understanding your combos and really carrying out your power moves, but also having this mental strategic aspect is something that we really want to appeal, and something hopefully that will help to bring the new wind in the fighting genre.
And also, it's a lot of fun. I was pulling off like a special move, and then all of a sudden a chariot came running over both me and my opponent.
Hey.
So you have to be careful. Again, it's not just a power game. You got to be aware.
When something is Japanese, it's a little bit foreign to us. But this is a Japanese sort of fiction that also has the word bizarre in it. So it's bizarre even to the Japanese. So it's even more strange. Can you tell us a little bit about, because you have had a lot of collaborations with fashion and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit about how the sort of the franchise is sort of positioned?
まあでもそれはやっぱりその
So, as you did say, the world is very bizarre, but I think that's sort of the world that Sensei Araki Hiroshi sort of really creates and is very talented at doing. It's not just a cultural thing. I think the bizarre world that he creates sort of takes a couple steps into the future, I guess, in terms of creating a world that really captures anybody that sort of reads it, and that comes with, you know, fashion and all that stuff as well. But we feel that the world that he is creating is, again, appealing to anybody who is able to really pick up and enjoy. So this bizarreness, I think, is not as much a cultural thing, but I think it's appealing to anybody who really picks up his work.
So the game has been very successful in Japan. You mentioned it sold 500,000 units, and you want to be the new gaming fighting franchise over the next 10 years. Why do you think that is, and second of all, what do you think it takes to, because there haven't been a lot of new fighting games franchises, what do you think it takes to sort of establish yourself as a new sort of in the realm of Soul Calibur or Tekken or Street Fighter or all these giants?
はい、この作はもちろん
500,000 copies in Japan was due to a lot of reasons. I think it was the 25th anniversary last year. The base fan base for this JoJo franchise is so big in Japan as well. So I don't think it's the 500,000 people are all core fighting game players. I think it's a lot of players that really enjoy the IP as well. And so I think, you know, in that sense, we have implemented systems that we call Easy Beat, which is more aimed at the casual fighting game players, or even players who haven't really played fighting games before. It's not just button mashing, but it's randomly pressing the square button to be able to initiate a lot of different combos with easy controls. So that is one of the reasons why we were as successful as we were in the Japanese market. And for the North American, European markets, we do want to put an emphasis on the hardcore gamers and have implemented a system that's in-depth enough for hardcore gamers to play. But at the same time, we would really like to have new players to the fighting genre to pick this game up and really utilize the simple controls mechanisms that we have implemented, so that they can use this as a stepping stone into the fighting genre as well. And then from there, perhaps pick up the appealing points of JoJo and really spread the interest that way.
Thank you very much for your time.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you.